Welcome everyone to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter and today I'm going to be talking about Severance Season 1 Episode 3. It's called In Perpetuity. So full spoilers for the episode as always. And this one gave us some intriguing teases about the company itself, Lumen, and the lineage of the CEOs that are all from this one family. We see the Perpetuity Wing, which they take Helly there as a basically as trying to like convince her like what she's doing has purpose and make her want to stay, because she's still trying to sneak out messages. She's trying to write like half a message on one arm and half on the other. Mark talks her out of it and kind of implies that they'll still catch that. She tries to swallow a message. Mark says nope. Like, Metric will take it out, he will go in one end or the other, and he will fish it out. And they take her to the Perpetuity Wing, which, bizarrely, the thing that I would compare this to the most, I was getting, like, Bioshock vibes from this. The statue, well, not even statues, the sort of the puppets, or the mechanical puppets, or the wax figures with the audio recordings of the people they're representing of this family. And these old recordings of them talking about the company and their purpose in life and the world and whatever. Right out of the fact that they've got like the founder's like house recreated in a room, and they can go into the house and walk around it. It's like a perfect recreation of his house, and all of it was, you know, a little surreal, a little creepy. Even the hallways, like when they run into Christopher Walken and his like his co-worker, right, from their department, and there's a bit of tension and whatever, although it kind of feels like Irving and Christopher Walken are having like a bromance blossom, and like the way John Turturro was looking at Christopher Walken with like, it was like he had a song on his heart. It was kind of special and neat. But even that hallway, there was something just kind of surreal about this intersection of all these hallways all, you know, crossing over. It felt like unnatural, and maybe it was partially unnatural. Maybe they used like an effect to like frame it the way they wanted it or something, but it felt surreal. And there's a lot of that in the episode, and you know, Helly ultimately tries to run away. Mark chases after her, and she tries to basically go to the stairwell where she'd been before, and it won't open, so she smashes the window and the door with a fire extinguisher and tries to just hold out the message on the back of this bingo card that they, like, one of the guys made up for this, just saying she doesn't want to work here anymore. And she tries to stick her head out the window far enough so that she'll become herself, so she'll become her outer person and see the message and see how desperate she is to leave and that she doesn't want to work here. And all of this, of course, happens because she was declined her resignation request. And the assumption from everyone is that her outer refused, that her outer said, no, I want this job. I want to put part of myself through this. Obviously not completely understanding the misery she's going through. Obviously, as an audience, I think we speculate that maybe the outer version of her never even got that request, and it was probably just the company. But regardless of the reason, this was like a real act of desperation, to the point where she cuts her arm when Mark pulls her back in from the door. And it doesn't save her from going to the naughty room, which we see more of this episode, and this like being blinded in the face with this message they have to read over and over again. And there is some dials and stuff. I mean, there's no necessarily clear implication that they're affecting her with a device of any kind, but it feels like just straight up conditioning. And there's some nice shots in here. There's like an ominous reveal of I want to say Miss Selvig, but what's her name inside? Harmony. Patricia Arquette's character. There's like a nice reveal of her kind of like through the words, just out of focus, and then it kind of like slowly reveals it a bit more, and she's kind of ominously just there watching. So we get, you know, there's these questions now that are kind of arising as to exactly what is this company. It's one thing to introduce a world where severance is a thing that companies use, and is a standard thing, and we see it being debated on the news in this episode. We saw characters in episode 1 debating if it's the right thing or if it's like a completely inhumane thing to do. But you give me this company with this weird cult-like admiration that they sort of instill in their employees, and maybe you could just read that into the themes of the show and the idea that companies want workers who see them as family, who see them as their purpose in life, who don't want to have anything else. And that definitely fits into it. But certainly in a plot perspective, I start to wonder about, okay, there's something weird going on about this company. What exactly do they do? Because they don't know. They talk about it. One of the things they look at in the Perpetuity Wing is just lots of close-ups of mouths smiling, because these are the people that the company's made happy. And Helly jokes that, what are we, a dental company? But no, probably not. Who knows? So it's all very eerie and intriguing, and this sort of set up the mystery of the company themselves. It's not just that they're a boring company and they happen to use Severance. There's something more off about them, and not that that wasn't something you could take for granted to an extent in the way that they're sort of hunting down Petey, or the way that they're spying on Mark, or these other shadier things that seems to be going on outside of the Severance directly. But this was more like, no, there's something really, there's like a secret history here, and the purpose of this company and what they're doing. At one point, Petey even says to Mark before he goes back to work, so they're still, he's still outside Mark. He says, what if you're killing people for 8 hours a day and you don't know? And Mark says, is that what I'm doing? And the truth is that Petey doesn't know, but he might be. And the truth, because the truth is, like, I mean, we see him, like, dealing with numbers, but who's to say? I mean, I think I even speculated last review. I said, these numbers might be picking people for execution. Like, he might be assisting in killing people. He has no idea. He doesn't even know it'll work if he's doing that. They're just numbers. So, there's a lot of intriguing elements here to the build-up of the mysterious company and the family line. Irving, of course, is an example of a character who this brainwashing, this like adulation that he has for the company, it's worked. Like, he's completely bought into it. And maybe there's a number of reasons why. I mean, maybe we'll explore him as a character and why he's really went into this. Helly's a really interesting character in her own right, because she is exploring all these ideas of like someone who just doesn't want to be here and why it is so horrible. And we're seeing these extreme ends play out. One of the little details I really liked is when Mark comes into work, he doesn't even know he had a sick day at work. He says, oh, I wasn't here yesterday. He's like, no, you were off sick or something. He didn't even know that. He just assumed it was Monday. But it was Tuesday. Well, it may not have been. Like, I don't know what the days were, but you know what I mean. Like, he just assumed it was the next day, but it wasn't. It was the day after. But there's some little tidbits. He finds the map inside, and it's kind of obvious he's about to find it because of the way it's focusing on the photographs like being flipped over, where he's replacing them with the new ones. But he finds the map inside, so there's a little hint inside that he's seen something maybe worth investigating, and he has no interest in like leaving the company or reintegrating. And why would he, especially at the end of the episode, where it seems to be killing Petey? He might already be dead the way he collapses at the end after he leaves the house. Which he does because Miss Selvig is then snooping around looking to see if there's anything suspicious going on from her perspective. And the one thing they do find is that Mark's brother-in-law drops off a book. It's a present, but it's a book that he's written about spirituality and self-help or something. I don't know, some of his new age crap. That's all I've got for you. Which notably she steals and is then inside the workplace at Lumen because she's making Mitchik check it for code or messages or anything like that. So he's actually reading it. So it's sitting in there right now. I thought that was going to come back up by the end of the episode. I thought that they'd do a moment where Mark sees it and it just kind of confirms that he doesn't recognize him. He doesn't really acknowledge any of it. Just in case just to prove to us as an audience that he will genuinely not recognize something that personal to him. Now, I know we've already kind of proven that, don't get me wrong, because he doesn't recognize Petey in the outside world and he was close to him inside, but still, I thought they might do something with it, and they might still do something with it. It's still in there, so important little detail maybe. One of my favorite little moments of the episode probably was when Mark's talking to Petey and Petey says, it's right after Petey finds out that Mark lost a wife, because he says in the morning before he goes to work, like, I'm not going to reintegrate. I lost my wife a couple of years ago and I don't want to. This is helping. And Petey didn't know this, despite the fact that they were close friends, and for obvious reasons. And he sets up and says, I'm sorry, Mark. And my favorite little detail of the episode is when he says to Mark that you used to come into work with red eyes, and we would joke that you had an elevator uh, allergy or something, but that pain's still there. You just don't know what it is, but you still carry it with you. And it's that little seed of doubt for Mark that even when he goes to work and forgets, he still is him and still feels the things that he's trying to forget. That's an interesting notion, the idea, because I mean, I think ultimately when we do a story like this in science fiction, you're proving that the essence of who the person is still there no matter what. Or that's one of the things that we're exploring to maybe see, maybe we're trying to prove that it isn't, but typically speaking, the more positive idea that is presented, that our true essence of who we are is going to be there no matter what, and it will still come out in some way. One of the things that kind of crossed my mind as I was watching this episode is the idea that, whether or not he's growing attached to Helly or not, romantically is up for debate. But I think him trying so hard to look out for her and him trying so hard to sort of keep her around, I think there will be some thematic links there with how he feels about losing his wife and losing Petey as well, because that comes up, this idea of loss. One might even say that the loss he's feeling, and he kind of expresses a little bit to Harmony when he goes to see her this episode, is that he was supposed to be the department head, and nothing's been the same since. Petey was the tone setter. He was the one he was good at his job. He was good at keeping people spirits up and things like that. I think the idea that the transfer of the loss of his wife is transferred to the loss of Petey, and now he's trying desperately to hold on to Helly because he doesn't want to lose someone else. And it's not to say that he wasn't really close with Petey as well, because I'm sure he was, and it seems like that was the true thing. But more just the idea that that feeling of loss was there anyway, and now he has something to latch it onto, which is the disappearance of Petey. And I'm talking about workplace Mark right now, inner Mark. So I think that's quite an interesting concept. And speaking of interesting concepts, throughout the episode, Petey's freaking out and seeing like memories of workplace stuff and getting confused if he's at work or where he is now at Mark's house. And one of the little details that was quite curious is he talked about how the timeline of the memories is kind of skewed. That his first day at Lumens, which is only a couple of years ago, feels about as old as his 5th birthday party. And in some ways it makes sense when you think about the idea that that's his first memory, and most people, if you try to think of your earliest memory, most people don't remember too much from before that age. And most people don't even remember much from that age, but typically 4, 5, 6 is when you sort of can kind of start to have a few recollections. So the idea that his first day at Lumens feels like a memory of that time period in his life, and how much that might mess up his brain, I think is really cool. It's a really interesting idea. It's just these ideas that come in that I really like, and I think the music's still really good. The way the piano theme comes in, it's got that right mix of unsettling, eerie, but in a very sterile way, which is very much what this workplace kind of like provokes constantly. Couple things that I should mention before I wrap up my thoughts on this episode is, one, Harmony is another cog in the wheel. I think I forgot to talk about the board, who don't really talk to, but they're present in episode 1 when Mark's getting promoted. They're wanting to talk to Harmony here in this episode, and this other woman who's higher up the food chain is here to like say, hey, the board's here to talk to you. And the board never say a word. They speak through this woman who relays the questions, and they cut her off. They don't let her finish answers. This woman doesn't let her finish a personal question. And I say personal, I just mean personal in that she's asking her directly something as opposed to asking something that the board is supposed to respond to. And all of it made it feel like she is scared for her position, even if she's not severed herself, which she doesn't seem to be. She's still scared for her position. She's still in a place where she's at risk and she has higher ups to answer to, and she's scared of those higher ups, which perhaps I wouldn't say it makes her sympathetic as of yet, but it certainly leaves a little crack in the door for where we could turn her sympathetic at some point down the line. Be curious to see if they develop that in any way. Of course, the other thing is that, Mark, when he leaves at the end of the episode, is he sees Petey collapse. He goes looking for him. Petey's in a petrol station, and an ambulance is called for him because he's collapsing and bleeding, and he's speaking gibberish. He's not making sense. He says he needs tokens to eat because at work they need tokens for the vending machine, and he sees Petey collapse. And maybe we'll find out he's still alive, and we know that the company's looking for him, so it would make sense we might get a scene where they talk to him or something. But that could have been his death. Like, the way he collapsed felt like it could have been a death. He's certainly close to death if he isn't. And Mark is like, shit, this is serious, and there's maybe some truth to whatever's going on, and he leaves because he doesn't want to be seen near him. And he intentionally returns his basement to how it was. He puts a sheet back over the couch, he puts the boxes back on it to make it look like no one was ever here, because he's actually kind of worried that maybe there's something serious going on. And just as he's leaving, the cliffhanger of the episode is that Petey has left his phone, which makes sense because the way he walked out in the bathrobe, he wasn't thinking clearly, he was out of it. The phone starts ringing, and all of a sudden there's this link. Mark can find out more about this organization who is fighting against Severance and the company. And it's not the people handing out the leaflets from that last episode. He even asked that, and Petey kind of laughs it off. They're just college kids or doing whatever. But there's people who are seriously against this, and they're looking into it. And that's who operated on him. That's who did this with him. So Mark has a link to them now. Mark presumably is going to answer the phone, or maybe call them back later in the episode. Maybe he'll need to be motivated by something else before he finally makes the call. But there's a link there. So it's done a really good job of the cliffhangers, I think, these episodes, by and large. Like I say, I think the first episode could have ended a little bit earlier, but for the most part, it is leaving us on these little details and these little moments. It's like, oh, there's a tangible direction to go in now. That is a new direction. So each episode feels quite fresh when it ends. It feels like, oh, we've got a new fresh thing to explore next time. And that's good. That's good TV writing. It's good serialized TV writing. I like it. I think, this show has a really unique tone because it does have that sterile, upbeat workplace, but it's kind of creepy and sinister as to what's actually going on and who the company are. It has a very, very specific vibe, and it is... I don't really want to say anything about it other than just that it is very unique, and I can't think of many other shows that have this kind of feeling to them. Obviously, it's pulling on tropes from other things. The idea of the mystery and investigating it is very... there's a lot of elements you could link to other things if you really wanted to, but by and large, I'm just really impressed with how unique it feels, and I'm enjoying the journey and the characters, the mystery, and the general exploration of this idea of two sides of the same person is quite fascinating. So I'm still quite into it. I mentioned some of the shots earlier. I also like the frantic, like, shaky cam during the trying to escape sequence. When Helly's trying to get to the fire escape door, and there's like a chase where Mark's chasing after her. I thought because of how like sterile and because of how like calm and like empty these hallways are, there was something very disorientating about like the shaky, like, up and down camera running with them so much. It felt like it really... I guess what I'm trying to say is it feels like that type of physical exertion and that type of energy, it doesn't belong here, right? Because this company wants them to be calm at work, docile, wants to be doing what they're told, all that kind of thing. So it felt like it was an alien activity in this space. And that would be true of most... Like, if you started running down the corridors up and down of an office workplace, it would feel like, yeah, this is not supposed to be a place for that. But everything about this and the way it was shot differently from the rest of the episode really made it feel like, no, this is not supposed to happen here. And again, good vibes. I'm into it. So yeah, I'm hoping that I will get to the fourth episode on release day. It's been a very, very busy last half week. That said, though, the Batman's out on Friday, so I don't want to make any complete promises, but I'll see what I can do. But I'm enjoying the show. I'm looking forward to episode 4. Hopefully you guys are too. Let me know what you thought of this one in the comments below. Like, subscribe, ding the bell for notifications, all that stuff. And of course, get us on Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. And you can support us over at patreon.com/mailfuzztv for as little as $1 per month. and keep the content coming and support everything we do. Best time to sign up is near the start of the month, so you're not charged again too quickly. So head over, have a look, see if you're interested. But otherwise, that is me. So thank you once again for watching or listening. I always appreciate it. Keep watching TV. Have you got any vanilla?